Why does it seem that our culture is, our preoccupation with sex seems to be accelerating?
Right.
Why is that? And I think it would be easy to just say, what's happening here is this is just moral laxity. You know what? We've just allowed the line to be redrawn and redrawn. We just keep, making concessions, and just a little bit of time. It's like the frog in the kettle, and now look where we are.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just, moral laxity. What we're seeing happening today is due to, in large part, what I see as two major worldview shifts that have happened over the last, I would say, again, a couple hundred years. The first one, Shawn, I would say, is this. The major shift being what is often referred to as the death of God. By that, I don't mean that God's actually died.
Right.
But it was what some philosophers talk about is the loss of the transcendent, or the loss in our general consciousness of any notion that there's anything outside of the physical universe. There's probably just a few key individuals whose ideas really, it's not like they were the only ones, but I would say their ideas deeply characterized this movement. The first was Darwin. His final conclusion from all of his studies, he declared everything in nature is the result of fixed laws, right?
Right.
So we were so brilliant in the 19th century that we finally discovered that we can explain everything according to fixed natural laws. That was his conclusion.
Yeah.
Right? Along with Darwin was Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche is the one who he declared God is dead in his philosophy work. Again, he didn't mean that literally God had died. What he meant was that the idea of God in Western culture is dead. We don't need God anymore as an explanatory framework. Right. He said, God is dead. He said, we, however, want to become who we are. Human beings who are unique and new and incomparable, who give themselves laws, who create themselves. And I think Darwin and Nietzsche just typified that Enlightenment modern rational rejection of the transcendent.
Right.
Nietzsche, at least, I think, was honest enough to see the direct implications of that. And that if there's no God outside of us who is giving meaning to the world, then Nietzsche hit the nail on the head. If there's nobody giving us meaning outside ourselves, then we have to give meaning to ourselves.
We got to figure it out ourselves. Yeah.
We have to create ourselves and give ourselves meaning, right? So that was the first major shift. And the other one, which is interesting because it was happening alongside of it at the same time, but almost in reaction to. And this was the inward turn for meaning, that there's an equally persuasive force in human nature, not just reason, but our passions, right? And so Romanticism was a movement that kind of emerged in reaction to this rationalistic move of the Enlightenment, turning people's gaze inward to their own subjective experience and emotions as keys to unlocking what they became to see as their authentic self. And maybe the one who got the ball rolling on this was Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Mm-hmm. And he was a philosopher, and he kind of was this man who began doing some thought experiments, and he wrote them out in his work called The Confessions. And he basically spent time just reflecting on how he could come to truly understand his authentic self. And here's the conclusion he came to. He said, the particular object of my confessions is to make known my inner self, and all I need do in order to accomplish this, as I have done up until now, is to look inside myself.
Right.
So there's what I see are maybe the two most influential worldview shifts that we've inherited here in the West. So now there is no transcendent. There is no objective reality beyond the physical, giving meaning to the physical.
Right.
Which means that sex and sexuality have no inherent eternal meaning outside of itself.
Right.
What kind of things could you safely conclude if you took that to be the case?
Right. There's no connection to anything outside of myself. So sex just becomes about me.
Well, and along with that, I think too, and again, this just follows logically. If there's no inherent meaning, my own experience of my sexuality becomes what is ultimately important to me. And if there's no meaning outside of me or outside of us to tell us, then that means that no one really outside of myself can tell me or instruct me or evaluate the experiences I'm having to say whether they are good or bad one way or the other.
Right. This is starting to explain a lot. This is starting to...
Well, I mean, the more we talk, Shawn, is it not sounding more and more like the sentiments that we hear around us all the time? But even going through that thought experiment, you see that, well, actually, those sentiments that we're expressing as a culture are a logical outcome of particular worldview beliefs. It's not just that our culture's decided to loosen up moral restrictions. These changes haven't come from just some kind of a failure to hold the line.
Right.
Morally speaking.